We're gonna change the agenda a little bit, and we're gonna take 2892 last. So if anyone's here relative to 2892, which is Stratford Avenue, it's going to be the last appeal we hear this evening as opposed to the first. We're going to start with Appeal 2893, applicant Lori and Brett Theoboo. I apologize for messing your name up. Property located at 401 Oak Lane and zoned R2 seeks to demolish an existing non-conforming detached garage and construct a garage attached to their home within the required front yard setback. Applicant seeks a variance from Section 28020C of the zoning code and any necessary relief to construct the garage.
Good evening.
Haven't seen you in a while.
If you'll both raise your right hands, I'll swear you in. You do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
And state your names one at a time.
Brett Thibodeau.
Lori Thibodeau.
This is a situation, just by brief opening. It's a corner lot. It's non-conforming as to lot width, which is where the problem is. Actually, the building envelope is only 30 feet wide. What they wish to do is tear down a detached, dilapidated garage. It was built in the 1920s, and remove it and attach it to the house. By attaching it to the house, they would be in violation of one of the front yard setbacks, because as you know, our code calls for 2 front yard setbacks. They will still maintain the 1 front yard setback, which is actually where the front of the home is actually located. And the way we've kind of planned the garage is that on the other front yard setback, we would preserve it as a side yard setback, so that it would be 20 feet from the street right of way. There's no opposition to this application, as far as I know. And as you notice, there's a lot of I've attached some consents to the application, as well as some of the neighbors are in the audience to speak in favor of it. So first, Brett, when did you purchase the premises?
In 2007, February of 2007.
And
Do you have a mic?
And we were saying you purchased the premises in 2007?
Correct.
And I've marked as A2 the copy of the deed?
Yes.
And who do you own the premises with?
With my wife, Lori.
And who resides there with you?
Our 2 children, Gavin and Riley.
And how old are they?
8 and 4.
I'm going to show you, when was the house built?
It was built in the 1890s,
Okay, and how about the garage? When was the garage built?
in the late 1920s.
And your intent here is to remove the existing garage, and there's photographs in the file indicating it, and then attach it to the house. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I'm showing you what I've marked as A3, which is the survey of the site. And first, we'll notice that the lot is not non-conforming as to lot width, because the requirement is 100 feet, and actually your lot width in this instance is 90 feet.
Yes.
And you see a very narrow building envelope that I'm indicating here, and that's a 30-foot building envelope. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then what further complicates your situation is that not only is it non-conforming as to lot width, but now you have 2 streets where you have to maintain 2 front yard setbacks of 40 feet, as opposed to a side yard setback for one of those streets, which would only be 20 feet. Is that right?
That's right.
And your objective here is to remove that existing garage, correct?
Yes. Correct.
And also remove the macadam
Yes,
associated
correct.
with it,
Take out the driveway, yeah.
and the driveway there. And in fact, you would be reducing impervious coverage.
Yes.
And I believe, according to the calculations down here, we're reducing impervious coverage by about 600 square feet.
Yeah, from 19.9 to 17 point, I think, 3 or 17.7.
And your proposal is to attach the garage, is that right?
That's correct.
And the garage will be, I believe, what's the size of the proposed garage?
25 by 30 feet.
And actually, the existing garage is 28 by 28.
That's correct.
So the existing garage is actually a little bit larger than the proposed garage.
Right, that's correct.
I'll show you some photographs. First, A4. Can you just tell the board what A4 represents?
This is the front of the home from Oak Lane.
And this is on Oak Lane, so this is not where the garage is going to be located.
Correct.
And actually, this is the true front of your house.
Yes,
And your address is the Oak Lane, actually.
401 Oak Lane, right.
And the actual other street there is Beech Tree.
That's correct.
I'm going to show you as A5. Again, if you just can tell the board what A5 represents.
That's looking down the property line from Oak Lane towards the rear of the property.
So it's the left property line.
The left-
Again,
the
the
left
front,
property
the
line.
front on Oak Lane.
Yep.
Is your house the hedges or the fence, the tree? Where's your
Uh,
property line
t-
stop?
It's the hedges on the left side of the picture.
Thank you.
And A6, now this is looking at the house from the intersection, right?
That's right. That's from the corner of Oak and Beech Tree.
And that's kind of showing where the some location where the garage would be located.
That's
We'll have
right.
a better picture of that in a minute. And A7,
That's looking at the side of the house from Beech Tree towards where the garage would be located.
and A8, A9, I'll put all three of them up here, and A10.
Those are pictures of the garage. A8 is looking at the garage from the Beech Tree side, and A9 is looking at the back, the rear of the garage, and A10 is looking at the sort of deteriorating back door of the garage.
Looks like the roof is kind of sloped there.
It's sagged, yeah, the roof is sagged.
And A11 is just the rear, shot of the rear property line.
Right, from Beech Tree.
And
Ours
that-
is on the right side.
But that's the property line opposite Oak.
Correct.
And then A12, which is also in the file.
A12 is looking from the rear corner of the property line towards Oak,
Showing the rear of your house.
showing the rear of the house.
And A13, and what's the significance of A13?
A13 is the property across the street from us, and it's just to show that's much closer to the road on the side. It's out of compliance as well, I guess you'd say.
And I've attached as A14 several zoning hearings in which relief was granted to construct various additions in violation of the setbacks. I've marked as A15 and A16, and I'll hand them up.
I think that the decisions in A14, though, were special exceptions.
They may have been. I know some of them were.
I think I didn't see any variance ones in here unless I missed something.
A15 is the elevations, and then A16 are consents from various neighbors who border the property. First, I'll hand up A15. I'll hand up both at the same time. Oh, I'm sorry.
It says A16?
A16. A16 is the consents of the neighbors. I'm sorry, I thought I had marked it. First, Brett, referring to A15, if you can just tell the board what A15 represents.
Sure. The front page represents what the proposed house would look like with the garage from the front, looking from the Oak Lane side. So that's the kind of front elevation. And the second elevation is looking at it from the side, looking at it from the Beech Tree side, with the garage indicated on the right.
The old one? Okay. Yeah. Is A6, is that kind of where it would be?
Yeah, A6 is I guess
Maybe A7 may be a better,
That's the one with all the trees, isn't it?
A7 is, yes. It is it would come out sort of towards where that first sort of leaning evergreen is. Not quite that far.
Is it going to be extended out the back also? I'm trying to figure it from the
No.
drawings. Is the hash is what the garage is? Is that what that is?
the hatched, yeah.
Yes.
The hatched on
This is-
A3, Charlie, is where
that's
the
the
garage should be
proposed garage.
located. So it kind of is even, the rear of the addition on the garage is even with the rear of the current home.
So it's not going to extend past the house already?
No. No.
Okay. Brad?
Is there a living space on the second? Looks like it's a two-story garage?
Yes.
Is there a living space on the second floor?
Yeah, the idea would be to put a family room.
And what's your objection to just putting up a new garage in the same spot?
It's, at the moment, virtually unusable, not just for the fact that it's deteriorating, but it's on the other side of the pool, which, with a couple of young kids, we don't really want them running over to the garage by themselves or to get in cars and whatnot. So we actually don't park the cars in the garage. So it's become sort of unusable, I guess.
Do you need that 25 feet length, depth for the garage? Can it be like 20 feet? So your, what do you call, the setback will be only 25.
So we do. We with the existing garage at 28 wide, we knew that we couldn't get there, so we shrunk it up. But we do have two large, we drive SUVs, and in order to get them in, we thought that would be, we had them looked at.
Yeah, remember the size of a standard parking spot in Radnor is 9.5 by 20. So it's
Yeah,
only
that's
like
what
5
I'm
feet.
saying. 20 by
longer.
9, 20 by 10, that's how.
Yeah, 10 by 20 is the normal
Yeah.
spot, but then you have no clearance in the rear to get around the cars if it was only 20 feet, so that's why the additional 5 feet.
No, at least setback will be.
Yeah, and what we're doing too is, the purpose of it, they actually, when they first came, they had a plan that violated the setback more, and my suggestion was, don't bring it past what at least the side yard setback would be, which is 20 feet, and so, to some extent, that's why they shrunk it down, to that point.
Can we come to some agreement like 22 feet?
We'd prefer 25.
Yeah, but it's too much, entering into the setback.
But as I said, what we were trying to do here is at least preserve a side yard setback, and that's, why we came to the 25 feet, because at first I believe it was actually at 28 feet they even had it. Because you do need some area for clearance to get around the cars, to walk around the cars. I think that's the theory for the 25 feet. And in this instance, just to reiterate, we're talking about a very narrow lot that's already non-conforming, and we're talking about a small building area, and complicated by the fact that we have a corner lot and have to comply with 2 front yard setbacks.
Tell me again, what will be the setback after the garage?
20 feet.
20 feet, okay.
Which is what the side yard setback in the zoning district is, actually, is 20 feet is the maximum for per side.
You have 2 front yards.
We have 2 front yards, yeah.
And where the old garage is right now, you're just going to sod it? Just going to be a play area?
And that's the other thing, which is good, particularly in the North Wayne area, because of the water problems, that we are reducing the impervious coverage pretty significantly by 600 square feet. I know you'd like that. I had to throw that in. That should be enough just to prove it.
Did you say significantly?
Any other questions?
I just request the exhibits be part of the record.
Okay. Anyone in the audience have anything they want to say? Please come up. Come on.
Hi.
Swear you in, if you raise your hand, you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth,
I do.
and state your name, please.
Joanne Buno,
Spell.
Buono. Hi. I live at 311 Oak Lane on the corner of Oak and Beech Tree, across the street from the Thibodeaux. Couple points. One, I think what they're doing is a great idea. The current garage is an eyesore, and knocking that down and building a new one will provide more grassy area. And the water issue is a really big one. We've seen the creek overflow 4 times in the last 2 years. So increasing the area where the existing garage is would really be helpful to our area, to North Wayne. The other point is I've seen their plan, and the garage will maintain the integrity of the old historic house. The previous owner had an addition on the back of the house, and the plan for this garage will make the garage appear like it's part of the original house, much more than what's currently existing. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sir, I'll swear you in. You raise your right hand, you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
State your name for the record, please.
Brendan O'Neill, and I live across the street, 122 East Beach Tree Lane. So maybe the best way to show why this seems like a pretty good idea to me is give you a sense of where our house sits. We are kind of where the word lane is, facing the existing garage. So we have a beautiful porch. We like to sit out and watch the kids run up and down the street. And right now, the garage, the view is of the garage. Where's the, you get a picture of the three doors? Here we go. Yeah. This is the view from the porch, which has been there since we bought the house in '99. And the suggestion, which I embrace entirely, is that the view would then be of backyard, right? And where the addition is going is kind of offset from our front yard, so it really doesn't obstruct the view, and it doesn't really intrude on our property at all. So I view this as an enhancement to the overall neighborhood, and specifically for the folks immediately around them, it's an enhancement to our property value as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else have any other comments? Peter?
I move that we grant a variance and approve the change. I'm tempted to say that so that Mr. O'Neill has a better view, but really so that the hardship of the lot size and the corner lot can be dealt with.
Brad?
I'm in favor.
I go with that.
I concur. Have a good night.
Thank you very
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Appeal 2894, applicant Linda H. Hitchler, property located at 211 Radnor Chester Road and zoned R1, appeals the decision of the zoning officer denying applicant's request to rent as a residence the existing carriage house. In the alternative, the applicant contends that the requested relief is permitted as of right, or the applicant is entitled to a special exception under Section 280-101A1 or a variance pursuant to Section 280-14. Applicant seeks the necessary relief to occupy the carriage house as a single-family residence. Are you back again?
I'm back again.
Ma'am, if you raise your right hand, I'll swear you in. Solemnly swear you to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
And state your name for the record, please.
Lynn Hitchler.
What this involves is a house and a carriage house, a main house and a carriage house that was constructed in 1908. The carriage house has been used as a residence continuously since 1908, except for a short period of time when Ms. Hitchler had purchased the property where she used the carriage house to conduct a traffic home occupation. What happened eventually there is that there were complaints. She stopped the traffic home occupation, has rented it, that was around 2000, has rented it again since that time, and in fact always intended to use it as a rental property. It was just a short period of time that she was using it for her business. And you'll see some letters here that state her intent to continue to use it for residential purposes. It's an old carriage house. There's photographs in the file and we'll present that indicate that it's very consistent with the main house as far as the size of it. It's a stone house or a stone carriage house. And as I mentioned, it's been used as a residence consistently except for that short period of time. So I think the real legal issue here, which is the legal issue, is whether there was an abandonment or not. Of course, our position also is if it's not used as a residence, how can it be used? Obviously, it can't be used as a commercial property. So there's really no other use for it. There's letters from the neighbors in the file, and I have more that I'll present indicating that it was a carriage house, that they're in favor of the residential use. Also, there is a string of emails that I'll hand up between Kevin and Ms. Hitchler talking about why Kevin determined that the use was abandoned because of the business use that was conducted in there for a short period of time. And I think you just have a short email from me to Kevin saying this is just to confirm it, but I have the string of emails that I'll hand up too. And in this instance, I think Kevin's here and Ms. Hitchler's here, and they both agree that this was the communications that went back and forth between the two of them. And there are a couple other things. One, I have a deed.
Okay.
And I've marked it, John, as A2A. Because
That's
we had
fine.
an A2. And what I've done is, there's two deeds here. The first deed is to Lynn Clater, who was Ms. Hitchler's former name, and that's dated 1997. And then backed up is a deed from Linda Clater to Linda Hitchler, which is now her current name.
Okay.
So I marked that as A2A.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me? No, I don't need to. I'm sorry.
Okay. Lynn, you're the owner of the property,
Yes,
and you purchased it in 1997.
correct.
And I've marked as A2A, actually, the deeds for that purchase, correct?
Yes.
When you purchased the property, how was the property, well, first, when you purchased it, what existed on the property?
The main house. The main residence and a carriage house.
And when you purchased the property, was the carriage house being used?
Yes.
And how was it being used?
John Chu and his son, John Chu, were living there.
Okay, and Chu is the family, what's the Chu relationship to the property?
Oswald Chu built the house in 1908 or 09, and then he left the property to John Chu.
Well, let me ask you, has it been in the Chu family since 1908 until
Correct.
you purchased the property?
Correct.
Okay. I've shown as A4, and this is just showing showing that it was 1908, that everything was.
The original architectural plans, correct.
And just A5, this just shows where the carriage house is located in relationship to the property, if you put them both together.
Correct.
I mean, the carriage house complies with all setback requirements and everything of that nature.
Correct.
And just to take a look at some photographs. First, A6. And can you describe what A6 is?
The entrance to the carriage house and the carriage house
And A7?
is the front of the main residence.
So actually, they're very similar in architecture.
In same stone, same
window detail.
A8,
Shows the kitchen, which is on the first floor, and the original tin ceiling, which is still there from when it was built in 1908.
when it was built in 1908, do you have any knowledge on how it was used?
The groom who took care of the horses and the carriage and put the horses together with the carriage so they could use it. And then afterwards, I guess the chauffeur lived upstairs. And after that, various individuals from the Chu family.
A9
That's the bathroom on the first floor.
and A10.
And that's the living. Those were the garages, which were converted into living spaces on the first floor.
You had mentioned that I believe John Chu Jr. was living in the property when you purchased.
Correct.
Do you recall when he moved out?
Within a month or two of my
Okay.
purchasing.
And did you use the carriage house for something other than a residence at that point?
Well, I had a home office.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay. And actually, did you get a business license?
Yes.
All right, now I marked that actually as A17, and are these the business licenses for?
Correct.
You got the business license, but you never asked permission, is that correct, to use it as a home occupation?
Correct.
And in fact, around the same time that you were using it for your home occupation, you also got a permit that marked as A12.
Correct.
And what was that permit for?
That was for renovating the garage spaces into functioning spaces.
Functioning
As
residential? Or?
Residential.
Okay. When you used the premise, the carriage house, for your home occupation, did you change anything in the house?
No, everything was the same other than what we did for the permit.
Right. But, so you never changed, you used the bathrooms, you didn't do anything different with the bathrooms?
Correct, and the kitchen stayed the same.
And the kitchen stayed the same? Okay. And the bedroom stayed the same?
Yes.
All right.
Was it a functioning kitchen at all times during this time?
Always. Mhm.
Had a stove and all
Yes.
of that?
Mhm. The sink is still there. Everything is still there that
Now,
was there when I bought it.
Now, there were, obviously, there was an issue because you didn't have a permit to use the carriage house as a business, and you received notification from the township and from some of the neighbors that you were using it illegally, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and you did send a letter out that I've marked as A18, and it says, "Dear Bill," and it doesn't say who Bill is, but I believe Bill is one of your neighbors?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And actually, this letter was in the township file. That's where I found it. And the point that I'm trying to make is that she has stated in the letter that she intended to use the house for a couple of years until she retired. And then the last sentence of that next to last paragraph indicates that if you just want to read that sentence.
My future plans for the house is for a rental for a home dwelling.
So even at the time that you were using it for a business, you always intended for it to be a residence?
Always.
And just to complete the issue on that, I've marked as A19 a letter from Mr. Flagg to me just stating that she was going to discontinue the home occupation use, which you did discontinue it, is that
Yes.
correct? Now, after you did retire, is that correct, from business?
Yes.
From that business, okay. And after you left,
Thank you.
after you stopped using it for your home occupation, what use went into the carriage house?
It was a residence. It was rented.
Okay, and what the board has is A13 was the first person it was rented to was Michael Romaine,
Yes, and his wife, Michael and Julie.
and that was from the fall of 2000 through April of 2004?
Correct.
And then after that, who did you rent it to?
We were there for 2 years because we were doing renovation on the main residence, and so we moved in to the carriage house for 2 years.
Okay.
And then afterwards, it's rented presently since '06, June 1st, '06, to Billy and Debbie Delfield, who are still there.
Okay. And actually, are there other carriage houses in your immediate area?
Well, it's another little house,
Right.
but I don't know if it's a carriage
Okay.
house.
Okay. But, all right, you received the communication from Mr. Kachansky regarding this?
Yes, I have.
And I'm handing that up, the string of emails that you received from
Yes.
him and
Yes.
that you responded to?
Yes.
I'm handing that up as A3A.
Could you show Mr. Kachansky a copy and ask him to authenticate this? Mr. Chairman, I think for this to get into the record, we need to have testimony both from the applicant and from Mr. Kachansky that in fact this email exchange passed between them and that this is an authentic copy.
Okay, do you have a copy of this, Kevin?
I do, and this represents the communication that I had back and forth with the applicant.
I think you need to be, I hate to say it, I think you need to be sworn in.
And state your name for the record, please.
Kevin Kachansky.
Mr. Kachansky, this email exhibit A3A is an authentic copy of the emails that passed between you and the applicant?
Yes, it is.
And this is the same, ma'am, for you? This is a authentic copy of the emails that passed between you and the township?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Sorry to be square the corners.
that's okay.
At any time, did you intend to abandon the residential use?
No.
At any time, did you do anything structurally or anything else that would indicate that you were abandoning the residential use?
No.
Did you always intend for the carriage house to be used as a residence?
Yes.
You never dismantled anything, such as a kitchen or anything of that nature?
No.
So that you never made any attempt to alter the basic character of the residential use?
No, I never did.
I believe A11 is, and this is just confirming, I believe, could you just describe what A11 is? Because we're going back in time now.
This is a notarized letter or note from Joe Hill, who moved into the carriage house, rented it from the Chews from 1964 to 1967.
And I've marked as A20, and these are some letters of support that you've had?
Yes.
Okay.
Is this the letters I have?
I believe so.
Okay, so, okay. I don't need more, I have these. Just for the record, the letters that were handed up were all in favor of granting this variance, and they're from a Nancy Werner and Todd Werner, Francis E. and Suzette Baird, Regina Wagner, and Jacqueline Burke.
The only other witness I would have this evening is Lisa Stokes is here, who's a member of the Chu family. And what her testimony would be is that as long as she knows and through family history that the carriage house has always been used as a residence, she can stand up and testify to that. Maybe I can swear her in, and perhaps we can stipulate to it. And if the board desires further testimony from her, she can certainly do that
Okay,
as well.
and she can stand up and get sworn. Take her the mic if she doesn't want to walk here. Okay, the way they said it, I thought maybe. It did.
And then if you'll raise your right hand, I'll swear you in. Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
And state your full name, please.
Lisa Bennett Stokes.
Okay, and Lisa, where do you live?
We live at 207 Radnor Chester Road.
Okay, so you're a neighbor here also.
Next door.
And has your family always owned this property until Miss Hitchler purchased it in 1999 or thereabouts?
They have,
Okay.
yes.
And do you have any knowledge on how it's been used, both from your personal knowledge and from family lore as to how the carriage house has been used?
Well, we moved on to the property that is common family property in 1954, and it's my recollection that that carriage house was always fitted with a kitchen and a bedroom, and that people have always lived there. It has always been designed as a residence above the garages.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Any questions? No. Okay, thank you very much.
That's all I would have. I would just ask that the exhibits be made part of the record.
Is there anyone else have anything to add to this
Okay.
appeal? Okay.
And we do have one more letter of support. And they're from the Ebersols, who live at 203 Radnor Chester Road, and I'll mark that as A21 and hand it out.
She lives next to Lisa.
Okay. And I guess the Ebersols live next to Lisa Stokes, who just testified.
All right, thank you. No more, right?
That's it.
This isn't signed. Sorry.
She'll sign it.
She can just testify.
She could testify. She doesn't have to sign it. Just.
Give me some baseball.
No, she has no letter.
Hi, I'm Kim Ebersole.
Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Yes. And state your full name for the record, please.
Kim Ebersole,
And spell. Spell it.
Ebersole. Great. I'm just here tonight to show my support for this property, and our letter indicates that we are in full support of it being used as a rental property, and since we have lived as their neighbors, it has been used as a rental property as well.
Thank you. Yep, we don't really need that now. Brad?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the residence use has not been abandoned by the existence of the kitchen in its entirety, as well as the bathroom and the living area since 1997.
Peter?
And who can go?
I also. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Unlike the, normal orders which grant an approval, it's a determination that there just hasn't been an abandonment.
Right. Yes.
Now, Mr. Chairman, if I can just say one thing, we regularly get emails submitted to the board, and unless they're signed or authenticated by testimony as we had tonight, we can't accept them into the record. And so just so people know that we're all used to emails being the same as a spoken word in our work lives, but for purposes of what this board can take into evidence, and that includes evidence of anything, including standing or opposition, we can't take unsigned emails. And either the email has to be signed originally and submitted to us, or we have to have live testimony, as we had tonight, that the email is indeed authentic.
Okay. Appeal 2892, which was continued from the May 16, 2013. The applicant, 115 Stratford Avenue, LLC, property located at 115 Stratford Avenue in split zones CO and R4. The applicant is amending its applicant and seeking the following relief: a variance from Code 28092A4 to allow density modification development on a tract of less than 5 acres, a variance from Code 28091G to allow proposed decks, patio, access walkways for proposed carriage houses to extend into the required buffer area along the south side of the property where it abuts land devoted to commercial use, a variance from Code 28029, a special exception under Code 28101A1, or any modification of prior approvals granted by the Zoning Hearing Board in Appeal number 2832 to allow the use of the existing building on the property to be changed from a restaurant bar use to office use. And the alternative to relief requested in the three above, a variance from Code 28042 to allow residential use in the CO Commercial Office District. In the alternative to relief requested in three above, a variance from Code 28029, a special section under Code 28101A1, or a modification of prior approvals granted by the Zoning Board hearing in Appeal 2832, and a variance from Code 28093 to allow the use of the existing building on the property be changed from a restaurant bar use to a residential multifamily dwelling. Number 6, variance from Code 28091G and Code 28092A4 to allow the existing building to remain in the required buffer building setback area where it abuts land devoted to commercial use. Number 7, a determination that parking may remain in the front yard setback area along Stratford Avenue, or alternatively a variance from Code 28105 to allow parking to remain in the setback. 8, a variance from Code 28101 to allow 8-foot high fence in the front yard setback and at other locations on the property. And number 9, any other relief necessary to allow the proposed redevelopment of the property. And if you didn't get all that, there's a bunch of them over there. George? Did you make any headway with your meetings?
I think we have. Good evening. I'm George Brosman, representing the applicant, 115 Stratford Avenue, LLC. And I'll let this gentleman introduce himself.
Member of the Board, Fromfield Crawford, and I've been retained as counsel for the neighbors. I have a list of those who I represent that I think I should probably enter into the record, if I might, as parties.
Okay.
I'll try to be brief. And yes, we've made progress.
Good.
Leslie Morgan, John and Colleen Sheehan, Eric and Amy Schreiber, Richard Metzger, Darla DeMauro, Nishan and Nancy Dersimonian, Kim and Greg Donchis, Judy Brown, Jesse and Melissa Booker, John McKenzie, Lee and Karen Williams, and John and Melanie Shane, all of whom are residents of either Farm Road or Windsor Avenue in the vicinity of the subject property. I guess you would have a right to object if you want to any of them, but I think we've pretty well reached accord on that, right?
Yes, I don't object to those.
Okay. What do we have, George?
So I guess what we have been discussing is something along the lines of the following. We had prepared the plans that you had before you last time, which were the mixed-use plans, which had proposed the office and 8 carriage homes. And since that last meeting, we were asked to get some traffic information, which we have done, and we were asked to attempt a compromise with the neighbors, which we have done. We submitted a second plan to you that we were intending to go forward with this evening. That second plan I'll call it, for lack of a better word, an all-residential plan. That second plan, I know you have it. We would abandon the proposed office use, and we reduce the 8 carriage homes in the back to 6 carriage homes, and we would propose 4 dwelling units in the existing residence. We were prepared to tell you that that would significantly reduce the amount of relief that was requested. The primary relief that would remain with that request is the density modification, that we would need the density modification relief in order to do the carriage homes on the property. And if we were to stay with the 4 units in the existing building, we had asked for relief to change the use of that building from the approved bar and restaurant use to the residential use for the 4 units. We were also going to probably keep in a request for a 6-foot-high wall along Stratford Avenue. But I think other than those requests, all of our other requests would be withdrawn with that plan. There have been many other meetings held since we submitted that plan, including just now with the neighbors. And what we are proposing to do is that we would like to ask the board to grant the density modification variance subject to a list of agreed-upon conditions. And we will continue to work with the neighbors to institute those conditions, and then we will work with them at the conditional use process and the land development process if the board were to approve the project, the density modification variance subject to these conditions. So I don't know if you would like me to read those now. So you have them?
Yeah, do you have a list? I mean, do you have anything typed on them?
We don't. They're just...
They're handwritten? Well, maybe Kevin can make a copy.
Okay.
At least we have something. And
right.
Yeah, well, but he's got to read them too, but I think... Okay.
And this plan would be the plan that was submitted at the end of May, which was properly advertised, and not the conceptual plan that was circulated later?
In order to implement these conditions will require a modification of both of those plans. So what we're asking is that you would approve our request, but subject to these conditions, and that will, when you hear the conditions, you'll see that we're going to have to revise the plan.
Okay, why don't you read them?
Right. And I think Frone, to some extent, is hearing, we've discussed these, but he didn't get a chance to review what I've written. Number 1, building foundation walls shall be no closer than 120 feet to the rear property line. Number 2, in consultation with a certified arborist, applicant shall use good faith efforts to preserve the existing row of 6 pine trees generally parallel to the rear property line, including, if recommended by the arborist, relocating those trees further away from the proposed dwellings. Number 3, applicant shall include in its landscaping plans an additional row of 6 evergreen trees with a minimum height of 15 feet in the gaps of the existing pine trees. Number 4, applicant shall make its landscape plans for the rear of the property available to the neighborhood for input, and shall make its landscape architect available for a meeting with the 3 adjacent owners along Farm Road for further input on screening and landscaping in the rear area. Number 5, applicant shall provide stormwater management for the site in excess of requirements. Number 6, the density modification variance shall permit a maximum of 11 townhouse units. The townhouse units shall have a minimum width of approximately 40 feet and shall be substantially similar in architecture to the renderings provided to the neighbors.
This is 11 units as opposed to 10.
Correct. Maximum of. That's the density that's allowed. Number 7, the area between the pine trees and the rear property line shall be deed restricted open space approximately 105 feet from the rear property line, Such restriction shall, however, allow for improvements such as landscaping, fencing, utilities, and stormwater management. And then the last one, in lieu of the proposed fence along Stratford Avenue, a wall of 6 feet in height shall be permitted along Stratford Avenue. And that's the list that we have.
Where's the, I mean, you only have 10 units before us. Where does the 11th come in?
Basically, the concept that we have agreed to is that we're setting a line back from the rear property line 120 feet.
So you're going to have to move the buildings.
That will be the closest any building foundation wall can be to the rear. And then what we're saying is between Stratford Avenue and that 120 feet foundation line, we will put our buildings, and it can be no more than 11, which is what the density modification would allow.
So you're going to have to move buildings around.
Yes. Yes, we will.
Are you still,
And that could mean that the existing building, in all likelihood, will be demolished.
So, yeah, we haven't got we haven't got a plan that shows these buildings, this development at all. We just don't. I mean, if they're going to be demolishing the existing buildings and moving things around, we don't have a plan before us at all. Secondly, I would want to see, review these conditions, typed up. The zoning board has no enforcement, and we've also in the past, we'll accept conditions, and it's up to the township to enforce them. But we've had in the past too many extensive conditions that really were for private interests, and at some point this may wander. But to me, the big thing is the absence of the plans. We also have the problem of...
most of these conditions are really landscaping conditions.
Yeah, they can put an agreement in the file. I would like the township to, it would be nice if the township would say whether they're going to enforce this. But on the plan issue, we also come up again with the planning commission issue, which means the planning commission is supposed to have this submitted for review. This plan has not been submitted, and the operative thing says failure of the planning commission to review and comment doesn't void anything that this board does. But I think implicit in that is at least it was submitted. If it's submitted and the planning commission says we're not going to look at it, that's one thing. Not submitting it is another. And,
Right.
So
And I could address that. I mean, my position is we submitted the plan on this application. We did go to the planning commission. We did receive feedback, and that feedback has been taken into account. We did attempt to go to the planning commission with the revised plan. We were told we were going to be on the agenda, and then we were told we were not on the agenda. We don't really know why, but we were asked by this board to go and compromise, which I think you can see that we have done. And given the fact that the ordinance says that you do have to go, we did go in good faith. We tried to go again, and the ordinance says that it doesn't invalidate anything. We don't feel that we should be, and punished is not the right word. We know you're not trying to punish anybody, but we don't feel we should be penalized. We did compromise and then have to go back to the planning commission when we did make every effort to do so.
Did you look at this other plan they had? Your clients?
Yes.
And how far along, are you in agreement with what he wants to do now? I mean, your clients?
Yes, but not with the revised plan that you see in front of you.
Okay, that's with the new plan he just said, with 11 units as opposed to 10 units.
11 units, and they would all be new units rather than part of the old building.
Existing building, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're in agreement with the conditions. We would, to answer Mr. Ryan's question, we would also be entering into a privately enforceable agreement with regard to those conditions.
The landscaping and so forth, we don't have enforcement abilities, so that would have to be either undertaken by the township or more appropriately, I think, by your clients. I'm very I still have the reservations I have. The most strong is approving a variance without a precise plan. We don't know what this plan is going to look like.
Yeah, we need to do a plan. Well, I think what you're going to have to do, George, is ask for continuance to July, come in with the plan, come in with the agreement that you're going to have with the neighbors, and we should be able to do this in a relatively short period of time, I would think. Because we can't, like our solicitor said, we can't pass something without a plan. That's just, that'll come back and haunt us. So it's not going to, unfortunately, it's not going to happen. The good thing is, you have this agreement with the neighbors. So the biggest obstacle was that. Again, maybe what you can do is get in front of the Planning Commission between now and then. I know that if you go in front of Kevin or whoever, Steve, and beg and plead and throw yourself on the floor and weeping and gnashing, you may get in front of the Planning Commission.
I try that often.
Mr. Chairman, I believe Planning Commission in July has been canceled for lack of agenda items. So
We'll give you an agenda.
I think it's already been canceled.
I think also we have an advertisement because the prior plans did not envision demolishing the old.
So you got to kind of have that done.
Yeah.
I think in the long run, it's the right thing to do so that someone doesn't step up in the future and saying you didn't do it properly.
Yeah, and I don't think from your perspective, it's or anybody's perspective, it's a good idea for this board to not square substantive procedural requirements, and I'd like it at least to be submitted to the Planning Commission. If they're not going to hear it, but here we have a plan. We're being asked to. We have a concept, no plan. We're being asked to bless it now, and I don't think that that's going to be copacetic.
Well, I think I've been asked to compromise with the neighbors. I think I've done that at every juncture. And
we're not questioning that, and we're happy you did. But we're kind of restricted in our guidelines of what we can and cannot do. It's like you're not allowed to go through a red light, and this is like a red light for us.
Yeah.
If we present this plan, can we have the ruling on this in July? We'll turn this plan in within the next 2 weeks.
Well, we would rule on it, and we would open the.
Yeah, it would be on a July agenda.
It would be on the July agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just can't do it without a plan.
You can't apply. You have to when a board grants variance relief or special exception or anything else, it has to grant it for a specific development, a specific plan, not sort of a general concept. You can't sort of airdrop buildings around, within sort of vague constraints, and that's basic zoning law, and we're constrained to follow that.
Okay.
So we will
and you will get this
we will submit a
and-
plan, and we will ask to go before the Planning Commission. Whether they choose to hold a meeting will be beyond our control.
Okay. We're okay. Mr. Prom, do you have any of your clients want to talk or say anything, or are you just going to represent them all, or how do you want to handle that stuff?
As far as I know, we don't have any additional testimony. Does anyone say anything? I don't think so. I think we've had, as has been represented, extensive back and forth discussions, and we feel that both sides have cooperated to reach this point.
Good.
So we appreciate your encouragement of that event.
It makes our job as a zoning board and as citizens like everybody else that's in this room, makes our job a lot easier when compromise exists. It just makes it a whole lot easier. Instead of people getting up saying, oh, this, that, and the other thing, it doesn't work.
Well, everyone realizes that this property should be used and redeveloped, and so we're basically happy with the compromises that both sides have made.
Thank you.
Can I say one thing? We do have the board had asked us to have a traffic engineer. He is here. He doesn't believe he will be available in July. He has vacation. If the board is still interested in that testimony, we did submit his.
Okay, good. Let him.
It's pretty brief.
Absolutely. If he's here and you paid for him, make him work.
Good evening. My name.
Oh, sorry. Do you solemnly swear or affirm this testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name for the record, please.
Andreas Heinrich. Heinrich.
Andy, can you briefly describe your educational and professional background?
Yes, I'm a traffic engineer. I graduated from Drexel University with a Bachelor of Science and Civil Engineering degree. I've been practicing as a traffic engineer for over 35 years now. I'm a licensed civil engineer in Pennsylvania and a certified professional traffic operations engineer.
And I'd like to offer Andy as an expert in traffic engineering.
I'm okay. All right. Okay.
No questions.
Andy, are you familiar with the proposals to redevelop the property at 115 Stratford Avenue?
Yes.
And were you asked to analyze the traffic generation characteristics involved in redeveloping the property from an approved bar restaurant use to a mixed-use plan consisting of 10,000 square feet of office space served by 40 spaces and 8 carriage homes, and an alternate plan proposing all residential use of the property?
Yes.
And did you prepare a written summary of your analysis?
Yes.
And does the board have that study?
Yes.
We do.
Can
we
we?
We don't have an exhibit number on.
I was going to say, what number do you want to give that?
Yeah, can we mark that? Let's see what I was up to last time.
George, also the copies that we have were printed out by computer, and they've got, while they're readable, they've got some soft spaces in the printing. Do you have some, nicer ones? That
Yes, I do.
If we could, let's use those as the
official. I had in my records that I was up to Exhibit A10. So let's call it A11.
Okay.
Mine are pretty good, John.
The plan that you forwarded in the beginning of the month, this one we don't even have to pay any attention to, right?
Right.
Doesn't go into the record.
So we're going to mark, I'll give you a cleaner copy that'll be marked Exhibit A11 for the record. So Andy, can you, referring to that Exhibit A11, which the board has copies of, can you describe for the record, what you did and what your conclusions were?
Sure. We were asked to estimate the potential traffic generation characteristics for 3 alternative uses of the property. In doing so, we relied on a publication entitled Trip Generation Manual, published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers. It's a generally accepted resource that traffic engineers and land use bodies use in estimating traffic generation characteristics for different types and sizes of development.
And when you go through this, since we've taken the mixed-use plan off of the table, why don't you not highlight that? Why don't you focus on comparing the bar and restaurant use to the all-residential plan?
Sure. As I understand it, the existing building had been approved for a bar restaurant use of up to 14,983 square feet. It is that land use that we compared with a residential development of 10 townhouses and carriage homes. We did not know the type of restaurant or bar that would go in, so we provided 2 different comparisons there. It could either be a quality type of restaurant or a high turnover style restaurant. We looked at daily traffic generation, morning peak hour traffic generation, afternoon peak hour traffic generation, and Saturday midday traffic generation. Because of the type of restaurants proposed, we didn't think the morning peak hour would result in a lot of generation. The restaurants would be more of an afternoon or a weekend type of a trip generator. Having said all that, a restaurant could be expected to generate 1,350 to 1,900 trips per day. That's a total 24-hour in-out traffic count. This is compared with 10 carriage homes that could generate about 90 trips per day. total inbound and outbound, a significant difference. In the morning peak hour, the restaurant could be expected to generate 12 to 17 trips per hour. This would probably be employee traffic to a great extent because it's assumed in this case that the restaurant wouldn't be open for breakfast activity. This is compared with the 10 carriage homes that could be expected to generate 8 trips per hour. During the weekday afternoon peak hour, the restaurant could be expected to generate 112 to 148 trips per hour in comparison with 10 residential units of 9 trips per hour. Again, a significant difference. And then finally, on Saturday midday peak hour, the restaurant could be expected to generate 162 to 211 trips per hour in comparison with 10 residential units that could be expected to generate 8 trips per hour. In conclusion, if the residential development were to be constructed, the addition of 8 or 9 trips an hour during any of those peak hours is almost a negligible volume of traffic, and compared with what's already traveling up and down Lancaster Avenue, it's almost, you could see fluctuations in daily traffic and hourly traffic that far exceed the amount of new traffic generated by an all-residential development of the property.
Now, Mr. Heinrich, even if we were to add one more residential unit, your bottom line conclusion is that this is still much easier on traffic than the proposed office or the existing restaurant?
That's correct.
By a long chalk?
That's correct also.
Andy, did you look into the baseline data? Have you taken any sample traffic counts?
No, as I said, with the type of use that is now on the table, the 10 residential units, as I said, you compare the amount of trips generated by that use with what's already traveling up and down Lancaster Avenue. It's a drop in the bucket. There's more fluctuation in daily and hourly traffic volume existing on the highway in excess of what would be added from a residential use as proposed for the site. So we don't see any real traffic impact as a result of going with the residential alternative.
So you cannot say the impact, really. You can only compare with the one proposal against the...
What I can tell you is my familiarity with just the overall traffic volume on Lancaster Avenue, you're probably close to in range of 1,500 to 2,000 cars an hour in peak hour on Lancaster Avenue. So we're going to add 8 trips, and some of that traffic might go out Eagle as opposed to Lancaster. So it's even diluted further.
And your, Mr. Ryan touched on this, but your study does give the rates for each unit, so you can tell if we do add the 11th unit, you can tell how much traffic would be generated. And as you said, that's also a negligible amount.
Yeah, for the addition of one more dwelling unit, you might get one more additional trip during any peak hour that we studied.
That's all I have for Mr. Heinrich.
George and Frank, I just from my own kind of craziness, you might have input on this too, from why are the neighbors so intent on taking down the house? This has nothing to do with you. I'm just wondering, because a lot of things that come in front of us and come in front of Harb is they don't want to take down these old establishments, and I was kind of wondering, geez, this is kind of different.
Well, it actually facilitates and enables the buffer that we've asked for, because the existing building is an inefficient use of space, and the developer will be able to use that more efficiently to get essentially the same density. And so we also feel that it was rejected. We know that it was rejected as a historically registered structure. Doesn't mean it's not old, it's old, but in terms of the trade-off between maintaining that building and being able to achieve the open space buffer, we have a very strong preference for the latter.
Okay. I was just, because we get so many things where people don't want to take down these buildings, so I was kind of wondering.
There was actually, that was a point of discussion among all of my clients, and there was no dissent. And so I can strongly represent to the board that the community is supportive of tearing down that building and maintaining
the 120-foot setback and the 105-foot buffer that
Well, the
George
community of immediate neighbors may be very supportive of that. That doesn't mean the entire community would be.
Quite so. Quite so. I speak for the farm and winter community.
Okay. Anything else I need to do? Extend anything, John?
I think you just need to request an extension and grant us the extension of time for the recommencement of hearings, and then 45 days after the conclusions of hearings with the decision for the MPC.
Yes, I would like to request that this be continued to the July 18, 2013 meeting of the board, and I grant the board any extensions that it would require in order to continue us to that date.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
No other business? The meeting is adjourned. Again, thank you.